We're going to talk about two things with Andrew Jackson today. The first is the spoils system. A couple of words to start us off on this. Civil servants. A civil servant is anyone that works for the government. This could be someone in the president's cabinet, those departments we talked about, or Department of State, anyone in the military, Department of Treasury, even a post office worker would be a government employee. So civil servants, simply government employees. Spoils system. This is the practice of rewarding political supporters with government jobs. One thing that's important to remember with this is Andrew Jackson didn't invent this system. This system was widely used before Jackson, but he was somewhat attacked for this. When Jackson came into office, he began to replace a lot of the civil servants or government employees. So Jackson was a Democrat. He was replacing a lot of the previous ones, the previous employees who were appointed by a Republican president, and this upset the Republicans. One thing with the spoil system, this goes on today, without a doubt. Andrew Jackson argued it was more democratic and it gave more people a chance to serve their country. The Republicans cried that this was unfair. In the end, he only replaced about 10% of all civil servants. So it wasn't like he came in and wiped out all of the Republicans and replaced them with Democrats. The next topic is the nullification crisis. And this was one of the first crises that Andrew Jackson had to deal with. We start off with the word tariff. A tariff is a tax on an imported good. So if it's made in a foreign country, China, Europe, India, Mexico, or whatever, and it's brought into the United States, like we think all of our clothing for the most part, a lot of cars, electronic stuff, those things are brought in from another country. Sometimes what governments choose to do is they put taxes on those. So it becomes more expensive when we buy those in the United States. Congress raised tariffs to help U.S. factories sell more. And the best example I can give, let's say we have a shirt that's made in the United States that cost $5 to make. And then we have a shirt in Asia that costs $5 to make. If there's a tariff on the Asian clothing, when it comes into the United States, suddenly the price on that shirt becomes more expensive because you have to pay for the tax. So you go to the store and the American shirt is $10 and the Asian shirt is $15. If you think they're exactly the same, you're going to buy the American shirt, the American made shirt, because it's cheaper. So what Congress often does is they raise tariffs on foreign goods to help U.S. factories sell more because those products are cheaper. The downside to this is if you raise tariffs on imported goods, other countries might do that on goods that are made in the United States and sent to other places. So southern states, once they found out about the tariff, they were upset. And the reason why is in the South, and we'll talk about this in a couple units, is the South sold a lot of cotton and they were selling a lot of cotton to Europe. What they worried about was Europe would put tariffs on their cotton. So suddenly their cotton becomes more expensive in Europe and not as many people buy it. So they're thinking it's going to hurt them financially. So Vice President Calhoun believed that these tariff laws were unconstitutional. They're not, by the way. So Calhoun encouraged the southern states to declare the tariffs null and void. So this is when it gets a little weird. We have the Vice President of the United States basically telling southern states to nullify or nullification. We learned about this a couple units ago. It's when you ignore a law. So the Vice President of the United States is telling southern states to ignore this. And it's a law that Congress passed. So Jackson, he's kind of he's got to try to make everyone happy. He's got to solve this. So what he did is he lowered the taxes. He lowers them thinking that, okay, that will help the southern states feel a little bit better, but it didn't work. They're still upset. And the vice president in South Carolina, again, decided to nullify or reject these laws. So it starts going from bad to worse. And then the next thing South Carolina does is they threaten to secede. Secede means you say you're no longer going to be a part of the country and you're going to form your own country. So it's getting much, much worse. So Jackson does not take this news all that well. And this is the quote he said. He said, "If one drop of blood be shed in defiance, when you defy someone, it means you go against them. If one drop of blood be shed in defiance of the laws of the United States, I will hang the first man I can get my hands on to the first tree I find." So Andrew Jackson, being Andrew Jackson, he doesn't take this and he threatens them. And then what he did to prove that he wasn't just messing around, he then ordered the army in to collect tariffs, and eventually he lowered them again. So South Carolina eventually backed down from this, the crisis. This problem was averted, and everyone, I guess, was relatively happy with that.